All right, why don't we start off with our officers introducing themselves and a little bit about their background and how they are here today.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Karina Sanchez. I'm the Executive Vice President of Communications for the Nevada and California region of Phi Theta Kappa. I am from Southwestern College in San Diego, and I'm majoring in business administration.
Hey everybody, nice to see everyone this morning. My name is Kayla Pham, and I'm the Southeast Regional Vice President, and I attend Victor Valley College, where my major is math and science.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Jessie San. I am from Citrus College. My major is psychology, and my role in the Nevada, California region is Vice President of Technology. Okay, so let's get started with our I was just wondering, our other officers, what are your duties? Like, what do you do as in your role as Vice President of Communications and a district representative?
So I could go first. So as Vice President of Communications, I'm in charge of making sure that I record all the meetings, such as the time, minutes, and attendance, in order to have it organized in a specific file. I additionally am responsible for composing the newsletter. We have a summer, fall, and spring newsletter that we release to the region. So I help to compose that along with the other officers, and then any other projects that we may have, such as the literary publication that we just released this year. It's very helpful in getting skills such as computer skills and just developing a lot of PDF forms. If you guys have any questions about the role, please feel free to let me know, and I'll pass it on to Kayla.
Thanks, Karina. And again, just to reiterate, if you have any questions about any of our roles, feel free to reach out to us. So as the Southeast Regional Vice President, my job is primarily to keep in contact with all the different chapters we have. I know that my college, Victor Valley College, is located in the Southeast region, but then again, I do keep contact with all of the different colleges we have, and I help out with the responsibilities that the Vice President of Communication and Technology have this year. So all in all, I would say everything we do is very much, a team process. We all just have individual roles. We work together, in unison and fellowship to make sure that we achieve our goals for the year. And with that, I'll pass it on to Jessie.
Yeah, I would totally reiterate what Kayla said. It really is a team process. I don't think any of us would be able to do our roles if we were by ourselves. And especially this year, it's a team of 3. So we really had to work on communication, coordination to make sure that things get done. As for me, I'm Vice President of Technology, so I do social media management. I also update our website. So our literary publication that Karina mentioned is currently published on our website. If you log into it, it should prompt you to visit our new edition. I also add in our newsletters on our website and update events. And our social media is updated 3 times a week. Ideally Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but it has information to events, things that our fundraisers, our spotlights of chapters within our region, as well as just quotes to motivate you throughout the week. All right, so what is the process that allowed you to become a regional officer? What are the steps that we followed in order to be here today? Our application process, and I would even say, what is the process that kind of prompted us to pursue this as well? Like, what did you do mentally and to prepare you for this role?
I can kick us off with kind of the logistics of it all, kind of starting off from when Ms. Moody sent out an email, inviting people to kind of run for regional officer positions. And so I remember we had to each write candidate statements, right, that we posted on the website. So for me, mentally, it was trying to kind of put myself into the position of other students, like, why would I vote for this person, right? Really making sure that my authenticity shows in this personal statement that I'm showing out to the region. And then from there, I believe it was a spring conference. I don't know if it was spring or fall, but in one of those conferences, I know we delivered a speech, we had a Q&A session, and at this point, this was us really trying to allow the region to get to know us, what we stand for, what our goals were. So that's kind of the logistical ones. I don't know if Karina, if you had anything to add to that.
Yes, as Kayla mentioned, Ms. Moody sent out an email that to the region regarding the officer positions. And at the time, there was an officer in my chapter that was a regional officer. So I really contacted and communicated with him in the process, and he allowed to give me tips. And then I communicated with the previous vice president of communications as I was running for her position. And she was very helpful in giving me a lot of confidence and just security. And she was very kind in giving me some tips when running and speech delivery. And then when it came down to Spring Leadership Conference, we delivered a speech and were interviewed and were able to present ourselves to the region. So that was a really great place to, develop your skills. And it's when you were elected officer. I believe officer elections are open or start to be published around February, March, just before the spring conference, if you guys are interested in running.
Yeah, and we got our first question, so feel free to type in your questions in the chat if there's something you want to ask us, and we'll do our best to answer them. So our first question is, sometimes my students think they can't run because they don't feel qualified. What would you say to them? So I honestly felt that way when I applied. I was really nervous, and it felt like a really big thing, and it really is a big thing. It's a big responsibility, but I wasn't sure if I was fit for the role. And the last regional officer we had in my chapter was a couple years back, and I didn't really get to meet her very much, but she was an invited speaker at an induction ceremony, and that I would say would play a big role in inspiring me to pursue it. So just like Karina said, reach out to the people you know that were regional officers, ask them how their experiences could help you, if they have any tips, how they felt in the role. And I kind of had this mentality that if you don't try, then you don't have an opportunity to succeed. You have to try, you have to put yourself out there and reach out for those opportunities. Because I have this quote on my wall, it just fell down, but I have this quote on my wall that says, no one's gonna come knocking at your door for success. You have to go out there and fight for it. And I think that's a really big thing to have to embody in your mind when you reach out to these leadership roles, is to think to yourself, if I want something, then I have to go out there and try. And that may not mean that it's exactly easy, but you wouldn't know it, and you learn the lessons along the way. There's no failure in it. If you keep working hard towards it, that means you're getting one step closer to something that you want to achieve. And yeah, I would like to just reiterate what my other two officers had mentioned. When you apply, Ms. Moody sends out an email to the region. There usually sends out a few of them to remind everyone that these positions are available. And I would just say, look into it. Look into what each role does. Take the time when she sends out that first email to read into what each role is responsible for, which one you feel is suitable for you. And then once you take that time to consider, then you can start working on your application. The application is really easy. I believe you need a recommendation letter from your advisor, and you also need to state your intent. And I made a video rather than a written statement, but and those are posted for the region. And really, when you campaign, it's at the conference. You meet everyone, you network, you get to know everyone, and that's really how you start telling the region that you're interested in this position. Karina, you want to answer the next question?
Yes, definitely. So the next question I see in the chat, it says, what do you feel are the benefits of being a regional officer? I fear there are many benefits to being a regional officer. It's a leadership position that really gets you to experience and communicate with different people. Apart from networking and building relationships, it allows you to develop skills such as leadership skills, decisive making, responsibility, commitment. Apart from it being an experience, it's a really great opportunity for you to get involved. I definitely recommend it. If you're interested in transferring as you're currently at a community college, it'll definitely look great for your application. And it's a time and an opportunity for you to be able to communicate with different students from different colleges, especially as a lot of things are still online. This position gives you an opportunity to meet new people. And there's really a lot of benefits that are tremendously helpful when developing your career skills and your educational path. Kayla, would you have anything to add on to that?
For first and foremost, I would just say it's really been such an honor and a privilege to serve with, Jesse and Karina on this board. And again, just reiterating that sense of fellowship that we get here and the sense of support that we get here, right? Not being able to just work with these officers, but being able to work with, like, the regional coordinator, with the alumni board, and just having the sense of support that, it kind of goes back to the first question where it says some students don't feel that they are qualified, right? But you have so many people supporting you. You have so many people wanting to see you do well. And I mean, it is that sense that, kind of drew me in. I feel like it's such a big benefit of being a regional officer. And with that being said, Jesse, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I totally agree with my other two officers here. It really is a learning process. And I think that when it comes to serving as a regional officer, we're exposed to a lot of the leadership things that we may not have been exposed to elsewhere. And when we're here serving things like our podcast here, we're learning how to do public speaking. We're learning how to communicate our thoughts. We teach ed forums where we have to study up on topics like, for me, I'm teaching student professionalism. It's really made me think and reflect what exactly is considered a professional student and things like that, where we have to kind of go through the process of what is a leader in order to teach people what is leadership and how to encourage them to pursue playing an active role within our region. That really has a huge impact on the things we learn and reflect from in this position. And I just wanted to really quick go out and mention that. So Ms. Moody sends out the email about applying for regional officers. She'll provide you all the positions that are listed. She'll also provide you the bylaws, which will have the descriptions of each position. And then what you're required to submit is a candidate statement, as well as a chapter advisor statement talking about your good standing within the chapter. Yes. All right. What have your new skills benefit you in other scenarios such as work and school? Kayla, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, definitely. And kind of reiterating what Karina said earlier, it's that skill of being able to work with such a diverse community of people. I feel like that's really benefited me in work and school, wherein, I have more confidence, to take lead in situations and be able to want to jump in, to be able to want to participate. So I think it's the main thing for me. I don't know. Karina, do you have anything to add?
Yes, I definitely agree with Kayla. With this position, you do really get the opportunity to really speak in a public scenario. And it's a really great skill to know. So it has definitely benefited me in my work and school place, such as my interviewing, right? Correct. When I go into a work and I'm trying to get interviewed or hired into a position, these skills that I've developed, such as communication skills and decisive making, have really allowed me to introduce that into my workplace, especially when getting involved on campus. There's been occasions that I've tried to get involved and become officer on campus, such as my own chapter, right? These skills that I've developed with communication, leadership skills, problem solving, just being responsible with my position, has really allowed me to install that into my schools as a chapter advisor, or as a chapter officer, I'm sorry, and in other scenarios and officer positions at school. Jesse, would you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I would definitely say that this role really has you put yourself out there and stay responsible. And a lot of us serve roles within our own chapters in our own colleges beyond just a regional level, but in our colleges itself. And I serve as vice president of my chapter, and I would definitely say it's helped me keep PTK in my chapter organized, because I know like when the dates are for fall leadership and spring conference, and I tell them and I remind them I have the opportunity to be like, well, everyone, the conference is coming soon, registration is up, we want to discuss if we want to purchase tickets. And so that in that aspect, it's really helped me connect my PTK chapter together. And personally, I feel like we have responsibilities, like for example, we have to email college presidents, and I was very, very, very nervous when I emailed my college president, but it really had me put myself out there and be like, excuse me, president, but we have a conference coming up, and I would really appreciate it if you made something for us to use. And he was very, very welcome to that invitation. And that really showed me that sometimes if you really want to ask someone of something, it's okay to ask and not to be scared of rejection, because rejection is always possible, but it really taught me that to put myself out there. And so, like Karina said, it's just, we're learning a lot. And I just wanted to mention that what are some things that you as regional officers did to kind of balance out the rest of your lives? Because I'm sure we were both busy with work and school. And then how would you fit this regional officer position into your everyday lives?
Yes, definitely. That's a great question. So even though I am regional officer, I do still try to get involved on my own campus with other positions, or I do have to work or attend school. So we all live, I'm sure, a pretty busy lifestyle. So what I've done in order to prioritize my position as regional officer, I've ensured to get all the dates for any meetings, events, etc., that we may have, and automatically add them into my calendar, even though they may be 3 months or 4 months away, just so I could have them set and have that time reserved for that commitment. Additionally, communicating with my officer team with Jesse and Kayla has been such a great help with prioritizing my role and my responsibility for this job, for this position. So we do have a chat where we are constantly communicating and just helping each other out. And if there's anything that I'm responsible for and have a commitment or a task for this position, I make sure to reach out to them if I need any help, assistance, or any advice to them. The regional board is also such a great help. They are very kind and they are very communicative and attentive with us. So they really allow us to express our emotions or express our need of help to them. So that has been a great help when prioritizing this role and committing myself to it. Kayla, would you have anything to add or something that has helped you?
Yeah, so definitely what you mentioned about the communication part has definitely helped out a lot. Just being very transparent with others that you work with has been extremely helpful. And at the same time, I think one of the contributing factors is that I'm pretty realistic, right? I know what my schedule looks like. I know what I can commit. So before I came into this, I knew how much time I had. I knew what I had to do, and I knew that this is something that I had to prioritize. And just making that a priority really helped me. So Jesse, do you have anything to add to that as well?
Yeah, I would say that I recently started working this semester, and it was really hard because I'm also part of a lot of clubs and societies within my college. So it's really taught me time management. And that's something I used to struggle with a lot before this semester. But it really, if things want to get done, you have to know what is important and how much time it would take you to get each one of those done, and to make sure you allocate those things within your schedule and write them down. Writing them, I used to rely on my head to remember these things until I realized I had a memory of a goldfish. And so I was like, I need to write things down. So you need to write things down, plan things out, tape them in front of you if you have to. But also another thing that's really, really, really important is that don't overwork yourself to the bone that you are become burnt out. And that's something that I really had to understand this semester, is that when I worked 4 hours a day, come back to 4 Zoom meetings, did 3 to 4 hours of homework, and start the day all over again. And then on the weekend, I would try to get something done, but my day was very unproductive because I was too tired. Make sure you allocate that time for your social life, for your personal life, for your me time. Whether that might come in different forms for you, but just remember that things don't always have to be work, 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 work. Things have to get done, and things get done with good time management. But it's important to manage some time for yourself, because that reset period will really make the rest of your week really productive. And I see we have a question in the chat. What do you hear from students across the region in terms of what their main concerns are right now that PGK can address? So as for concerns from students, I think right now, and because on a regional level, we are really involved in our two conferences, fall leadership and the spring conference. And so I would get questions as to like when those will be available, and like how that would look like, whether those will be in person or not in person, questions like those. I also get questions onto how they can be involved in the regional level, which I believe we answered in our previous question, like how to apply for a regional position. But also, if you have those type of concerns about how to get involved in the regional level, book an appointment with us. I've had people reach out to me who are like, I would really like to ask you some questions about this role. Would you be okay with scheduling a Zoom meeting with me? And I said, absolutely. And we would just schedule a Zoom meeting and talk about what the role looks like. And we would usually record those meetings for them to send to their chapter to see if their chapter has anybody interested as well. And as for conferences and stuff, those are always posted on our social media, and we remind people about events and things like that, and when registration for early bird got extended or has is up right now. And what I do is I take a screenshot of those and I forward them over to my chapters so that they are aware. And so I think answering questions from students individually also helps their chapter as a whole, because sometimes those people have the same questions. And so it's really helpful. And if you guys have any questions about PTK that we can answer, I'd be happy to answer those as well.
And I'll just add on to that question really quickly about like what do you hear about students about their main concerns with that PTK can address. I mean, I know I've like talking to some chapters. I know it's kind of been difficult, not just for PTK clubs, but for everybody, how to transition from a pandemic to in person, right? Like how do you move from Zoom meetings if you're back in person? How can you move on to in person meetings? So those are really good questions that are coming out right now, and they're going to take some time to answer. And especially one of the things that are coming up is engagement, right? Like how do you keep members engaged? How do you keep them engaged? How do you make them want to contribute to the community? And for me, it all comes back to this idea of fellowship, right? So some clubs are, they're really thriving. They've really been able to successfully transition back from the pandemic to in person and keep their members engaged. This is what I suggest. I suggest you use band, right? So band, we have, for your specific region, there's a lot of clubs in your region that they're doing great. They have good ideas, and if your club is struggling a little bit, you need some ideas. Go into that band. Go ahead and ask. Put it out, post it, ask. Like us as regional officers, we'll jump in there, we'll talk to you. But really try to work with other clubs, work with your other officers, work with us to try to see what works, because this is trial for everybody, right? This is something unexpected, but having others to support you and to help you is definitely going to be important going into the future.
All right, I see another question in the chat. Do you find it difficult at all to balance being in a leadership position and attaining a degree? Karina, you want to start that one off?
Definitely. I would say it could be slightly challenging if you don't manage your time properly, but I wouldn't say it's completely difficult, nor is it nearly impossible. For me, I personally find it that I am more efficient with my time when I organize myself properly. So in regards to attaining my degree, I ensure to know which classes I'm going to take a semester ahead. So I already am planning ahead how my schedule is going to be busy. I try not to get, as Jessica had mentioned earlier, try not to overload myself with a lot of work. So when it comes down to attaining your degree and having a leadership position, you want to make sure you're recognizing how much time commitment each position or each responsibility takes, and what exactly it is that you're going to have to do in the future for that specific goal. And in regards to attaining a degree, do you want to attain a degree such as a bachelor's degree and you would like to transfer? What are some small goals that you should set for yourself in order to achieve that long goal of getting your degree at a university, correct? Are there any extracurricular activities that you should consider for a transfer application? Are there any class requirements that you should be doing? Just planning ahead is really going to help you recognize the commitment that you are able to make to this leadership position. And it'll really allow you to manage your time correctly and organize yourself more efficiently. And then when being in a leadership position, such as a regional officer position, you are working with the team. So they're very helpful, especially in your chapter. Even if you want to be an officer in your chapter, there are other officers that you would be communicating with, and they could always be such a great help. And it's really a team effort type of position. So I would not say it's completely difficult. I would just say to organize yourself again. And if you have any more questions, please feel free to ask us. Kayla, would you be able to add on to that?
Yeah, certainly. Thank you, Karina. So I definitely find that being in a leadership position, while pursuing education is definitely being in that leadership position has definitely enhanced my experience, is what I'll say. Going back to that earlier question we had, like, what are some of the benefits of being like in this leadership position? And a lot of the things we talked about were those soft skills, right? Like those public speaking skills, like those skills to communicate with others. And in so many ways that's helped me succeed in education. So yes, while there are like, you have to be able to balance your time, I feel that it is so worthwhile being able to do this. So, with that, Jesse, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so I would just say that like I really liked Karina's idea, and I also agree with Kayla that it's a really rewarding experience. So Karina, with it just I think that if you want to lay out your plan for the getting your degree, book an appointment with your counselor, and they will organize what my college calls a student ed plan, and that kind of tells you what in each semester what class you need to take in order to qualify for certain schools and get certain degrees. So for me, I want a psychology degree, so I booked in, and I actually didn't know what my major was until the previous semester. So that's also something you're looking into. Ask your counselor, what are some tools that can help me find out what I want? And they will, after you decide that, they will lay out exactly which course you need in each semester and what you need to do in order to qualify to meet those contracts with other UCs, so, or Cal States, or any other college that you want to transfer to. So once you know those classes, you can maybe plan out your workload and how much you can handle in each semester, kind of incorporate this regional duties into that pattern, like into that daily routine that you're planning out for your semester, and seeing if it's possible, and how much time you might have to allocate for each of those responsibilities. I hope that answered your question. I see another question. What is one organizational / time management tool you use that you can pass on to students? I'll still get this question started off with. So like I mentioned, writing things down really, really helps. And things like electronic calendars, you can kind of section out and they highlight how much time each class is. And recently, and I'll bring this up, recently, my biology teacher taught me this trick where you can plan out your week for the semester and then color in the different, essentially, you can color in the different time segments of each responsibility, and making sure to schedule in the time that you're awake, the time that you sleep, and giving yourself some alone time, some family time, and really just coloring in each section. I know electronic calendars do this, but it really, really, really helps to do this by hand and to write down which part and how much time you're planning for yourself, and be realistic. Like, is planning out 3 hours of sleep and then 5 hours of work and 2 hours for school? And when you see that, it's suddenly like, oh, maybe I'm overworking myself. Maybe I need to replan this. Maybe I need to spend a little bit less time on maybe scrolling my phone and maybe spending more time on my sleep so that I'll be well rested for the next day. When you color those in and you write those down, it really, really, really helps realizing how much time you're spending on each thing. And I take this calendar that I color in, it's a week calendar, and it goes from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. for every day. And I paste it on my wall. So when people ask me if I'm available, I directly look at that, and I was like, these are the things that never change in my schedule. My classes never change. So if you want to schedule in that time, I may not be able to make it because my class is scheduled that exact time. Can you schedule some other time? So that's something to always have to reference to. Kayla?
Yeah, thanks, Jesse. And I would just really want to reiterate that point of make sure you're realistic, right? Like, don't overschedule yourself or put something on your calendar or whatever tools you use to be unrealistic. So personally, I actually never schedule back-to-back meetings because I know it's just not going to happen for me. You got to give me at least like 15, 30 minutes before I can go on to the next meeting because otherwise my performance is going to go down. But personally, Google Calendar has been my lifesaver, for these past 2 years. And I promise you, I don't think that without Google Calendar, I'd be here this morning. It's just so much going on, right? It feels like, in these times, our normal state of functioning is chaos, right? So I'm so glad, because I know, but it kind of varies for people, right? Are you kind of a pen and paper person? Are you kind of an electronics person? And the only thing that I have with me on my phone at all, on myself at all times, is my phone. So Google Calendar is so helpful in that. in that, 10 minutes before my meeting, I get a notification. Yes, this is where I need to be right now. And having it accessible to me, at every moment, just pulling out my phone, what do I have planned for today? Right. Just keeping that in the back of my mind, just being very real and being very aware of the things that I have to do. So with that, I think, my presence here to Google Calendar. So Karina, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, and like I agree with Jesse and Kayla. Calendar management is the most important. And as Kayla mentioned, Google Calendars is a great tool to use when managing your time and organizing yourself. I personally use the Apple Calendar. I have the Apple on the calendar on my phone, and I tend to use that. And it works the same as Google's Calendar. Another tool that I would recommend to use is Google Drive, which I'm sure a lot of us are very familiar with. The reason I would suggest it is because you could have everything, all your files organized properly, such as your student education plan and your class schedule or any class homework or even class deadlines, like deadlines for your homeworks, a list. Having all of those on Google Drive would really help you have access to it from any computer or any cell phone. So it's a great place to have. Another thing that I would suggest to a tool to manage your time is for your classes or any responsibilities you have or events is sort of make a list. I tend to do that for every position or responsibility I have. So I'll make a list specifically for my student list, right? Any homeworks or projects that I have due, and then I have a list for my regional position, any assignments or events coming up that I should keep in mind. I think list and calendar making us like gonna help you the most. And that I do know of this app, it's called Notion, Notion. It's a really helpful app that you could access through a laptop or a computer, and it really helps you sort of create a page for anything you want, such as a habit tracking graph or a calendar or a list making. It has a lot of different templates to utilize if that's something you guys would find interest in.
Just to add on really quickly about the whole time management thing. Yes, it's completely important, right, to like put out time. Like if I've actually done this before too. You say you set out 3 hours to study for this biology class, right? So it's not about just scheduling that time, it's about what you do in that time, right? Like how effectively do you use that time? Because it's really easy to say like I'm going to study for 3 hours and then go on your phone for 3 hours, right? So I think that there's also a part where you can look up effective studying techniques. So personally I use like the Pomodoro one, where it's like you study for 30 minutes and you take a break for 5 minutes, because your attention span like significantly decreases after an amount of time. And I'm very aware of that. I don't have like a very long attention span, so I use stuff like that to help me manage my time. So to make sure that I'm using my time effectively as well, I think that can be just as important as time management by itself.
Yeah, so the next question goes on to self-discipline. I was just about to get onto that as well. So great question. And honestly, it is really, really hard. Like for me, I go to work for 4 hours. I come back home and I schedule meetings back to back, and sometimes they overlap for 15 minutes. And I'm very, very, very burnt out at the end of it. And I just want to sit down. I want to scroll my phone for 4 hours. But then it's realizing it's giving yourself little rewards. So it's not indulging yourself all the time, but allowing yourself not to be burnt out during the day, and then giving yourself motivation. For me, that's how it works. It's like at the end of the week, I really want to spend time with my friends. And my friend and I have been watching Squid Game a lot. So what we've been doing is, all right, if I want to be able to watch Squid Game, we always schedule at 10 p.m. If I want to watch Squid Game, how much work do I have to get done that's due at midnight today? What do I have to finish early? What type of lecture videos do I have to finish watching for the next day if I want to watch Squid Game? And I don't want to watch it stressfully. I don't want to sit there and be like, I have an assignment due. I have to finish this episode, but I also have to finish this assignment. No, I don't want to watch it like that. That's going to be very, very stressful for me and my friends. So I finish it before, and I reward myself with that episode. And at the end of the weeks, I schedule to go out with friends. We go out to have boba, we go out to eat. What do I have to do in order to do that? Is I have to finish the work that was due for that week. I don't want to have any late assignments, because if I do, that's going to stress me out when I'm out with my friends, and I feel like that's very unfair to them. So it's giving yourself little rewards, but not overindulging yourself. I think that's my key to self-discipline. Karina?
Yes, this is a great topic to discuss. In regards to self-discipline, there's this app that I like to utilize a lot. It's called Headspace. It's a meditation app, but they also have study track playlists, etc. So I like to use that a lot when I'm having to sit down and really study and focus. I live with 4 sisters, so my house is constantly being very loud or noisy. And so what I like to do, I like to pop on my headphones, put on a playlist that's very instrumental or a meditation track, and I like to sit down and do my homework. It really allows me to sort of just focus on the assignment that I have to complete. Another thing that I like to do is really work out, just commit an hour of the day to working out, either doing yoga, going to a gym, etc. It really allows you to de-stress physically and mentally. So to help you to really sit down and do what you have to do right after. One more thing that I would add on when it comes down to discipline, staying on track, my sister has just recently created a vision board. So she practically got a lot of pictures that are very inspiring and motivating to her, and she put them on top of her bed on this poster. And I find it very inspiring, and it's been such a great tool, not only for her, but also for me. It's just allows you to visualize what it is that you're working for, the long-term goals. Why is it that you're working so hard? What is it that you want to achieve? What is it that you want your life to look like? And it's just on top of her bed, so it's in our room. And I definitely recommend doing that. It's sort of manifesting as well, all your hard work and just staying on track. Kayla, would you have another tip to add on?
Yeah, thanks, Karina. And I really love what you said about, kind of keeping your future in mind. I think it's a great motivation to kind of go on. And I think also being realistic that I know that self-discipline is an ongoing process. I'm not going to sit here and preach and say, like I have all these great techniques and I've never procrastinated. That's not true. But, at one point you have to decide that this is what I said. It's like, I'm sick of being sick. Like I'm sick of like being this procrastinator. And I have to make that decision for myself that I want something better for myself. Like I want to achieve these grades. This is what I want to do. And it goes back to what Karina said about, setting these goals. I think it also comes back to that question, about being a leader, right? Kind of one of the benefits is that, as a leader, I do hold myself to a higher like standard of accountability. And because of that, I won't preach what I don't practice, right? If I'm saying I'm going to be a leader for this whole region and saying, I'll be a great student, that I'm going to hold myself to that standard of accountability for myself as well. And, being able to practice that for myself to be able to sit here and say this to you as well.
Absolutely. We got another great question. Thank you. It says, in addition to working through your summer and winter breaks, what other sacrifices did you need to make to serve as a regional officer for the year? So I'm going to start off with this question. I think that, so yes, absolutely right. We do work through our summer and winter breaks, and those ones kind of get busy, but there's also gaps between semesters that I've been taking advantage of, like gaps between the semesters where you can kind of get more things done, like flyers and as well as planning. We also have to get our 5-star competitive edge, so that one is something that we had to do. As for sacrifices, I would say the regional board is really considerate of us in that we don't have to make too many sacrifices. It is schedulable, it's manageable, and we are able to do what is expected of us. Of course, we do have to allocate times for meetings. We have to be responsive when people ask us questions, being available and being just making sure we have that time reserved for this role. And it's really important that we have to prioritize this role as well, and making sure that the things expected of us do get done. And we do have to report to a regional board. And so I think that when we are planning out our weeks, making that time for this role is one of those things that we do have to do. And I don't say that's really a sacrifice of this role. I think that we took this role and we took the responsibilities with it, and just making note of the things that are associated with this job. And as with any job, what type of time do you have to allocate for it? What type of responsibilities do you have to accomplish? What do you have to maybe take out of your day in order to put this into it? And I think that is something that you have to mentally go through and plan out and schedule, going back to our questions about self-discipline and time management. Like, for example, on a Saturday morning, we all took time out of our day to be here, as well as you all. So I think that just making sure we schedule our time and making sure that the responsibilities that we signed up for get fulfilled. But again, I don't think that's really a sacrifice. I find that more of like living up to the responsibilities of something we signed up for. Karina, Kayla, do you have anything to add?
Yes, I agree with what Jesse mentioned. I would say the biggest sacrifice is just the time management, but then again, it's very administer. You're able to administer it. As mentioned, we do work during summer and winter breaks, but it's very manageable in the sense that we assign the meetings and we're able to sort of be flexible with the meetings as long as we're being committed to our work. And then there are certain weekends that you would commit sort of to the fall leadership conference and the spring leadership conference, correct? But those are very like beneficial events to attend either way. So it's really benefiting you in the long run. Kayla, would you have anything to add on to that?
Yeah, just to really reiterate that point of time, but in that same way, I feel that like what you put in is what you get out. So I know like you're putting in a lot of time. I know you're sacrificing, but you also get so much from, being in this role, working with others. And this is a good piece of advice that a college counselor once told me. And it's like every new thing that you put into your schedule, you have to be able to drop something else, right? Like if you're like full capacity, if you're gonna add something onto your schedule, you better be able to drop something. It's just trying to keep that in mind and being really really realistic with yourself, because this is a commitment. This is something you can take on. Like even I know like some students don't feel like they're qualified. And this is something we talked about earlier, right? But showing up is half of the battle, and that's what I'll say about that.
And I really like that point. Like showing up is half of the battle. When I hit finals week, I get really, really, really overwhelmed because I'm taking multiple classes and I'm also serving in a lot of other roles as well. And so I get really stressed out. When I get stressed out, I don't like to get started. That's just something that I realized was a weakness of mine, is that I have a hard time getting started. And I reached out to a professor and I talked to her about this. I said, I'm really, really overwhelmed. I have a lot of things to get done, but at the same time, I feel like I can't finish it all. And it's making me really too overwhelmed to even open the books. And she says, well, have you ever heard the quote, once you get started, you're halfway there? And every finals week, that thought pops into my mind now. And this was a couple semesters ago, maybe even a couple years ago that I met her. And now every time I walk into a finals week, I say, okay, well, there's a ton of things to get done. I have midterms week coming up. I have 2 exams and a lot of other things scheduled in between the week. And I say, okay, well, once we get started, we're halfway there. And so it really does go a long way to tell yourself that you can do it and that it is possible. So really great points that were brought up today. Wait, did we have another question?
I'll add something to that, really quick. I just kind of thought about that one of my professors was telling me about, our class with like procrastination and time management. So his idea was you get a piece of paper, you open a Google Doc, and you write down a list of everything that you have to do, right? And all of their deadlines. But the way you do it is that you sort it by the deadlines, but you start working on the things that are due like at later dates, right? So you start working on the thing that's due 3 months later instead of the thing that's due like tomorrow, right? So if you do that, if you're working down through the list, the last thing you have to do is the thing that's due like immediately. And I've tried that. Like, it's actually kind of interesting. If you've ever thought about it, you could try that out. I mean, I feel like it does work. I mean, it's just something to get used to. I thought it was interesting. Wanted to share it.
That's a really great tip. And another thing my professor once told me, this was my first semester of college, and I went in there and the professor says, this professor grades hard. He grades everybody. He would announce the people that got A's in the class, and it would only be usually one person in the entire class. That's how hard he grades. And he would say, I just wanted everyone to know that not everybody might like this quote, but for me, it really worked. He said, if you practice failure, you're setting yourself up for failure. And that might seem really, really harsh, but what he means is if you keep discounting yourself, like, oh, next time I'll work a little harder. This time it's fine. I will just do this really quick, easy thing and I won't put much effort into it. If you keep doing that, and that's what I noticed, is if you're really overwhelmed and you really put that mentality in, it's like, I just want to get things done. It doesn't matter if it's good. It doesn't matter if I do it really well. It's just get it done. And if you do that, then you're going to keep discounting yourself in the future. Next time you'll go, oh, it's fine. I'll just work at 11:59. I'll get it done really quick and submit it. It's fine. It's no big deal. And that becomes a habit, and habits are hard to break. And so recognizing when you set those patterns up for yourself, that really is, it starts putting into your, oh, maybe I need to change the way I'm handling my workload and the way I'm handling the things that I have to do. Now, I know we're at our last 10 minutes. Is there any final questions? All right, I'm going to go on to our next topic, which is what is the most challenging part of being an officer? And I think we'll probably end on this. I would say, what is the most challenging part of being an officer? And then one thing you would like to leave with this group here today about just a final message. Karina?
I would say the most challenging part about being an officer in general, or having any leadership position, to be honest, is the time commitment, as we mentioned. And it's really that confidence, or that ability to really put yourself out there. I used to find that very challenging to even think of getting interviewed, or to even consider running for a position where I'm trying to get a position and there's other people running for the same position. I would say that's the most challenging part. But again, if you do it, you're going to overcome that fear slowly, and really manage your time wisely. And then one last thing that I would like to say, if you guys are interested in running for a regional officer position, please feel free to reach out to us if you guys have any more questions or need any advice or anything like that. And I highly recommend it. And I believe you guys could do it. If you guys want to do it, you guys can do it. I know when I started off as vice president of communications, I was very nervous. I had a little bit experience with creating newsletters, but I wasn't really confident in it. And along the way, I've learned about it. I've learned to create PDF forms. I've learned to manage and create newsletters, etc. So you're going to learn along the way with this role. And I definitely recommend you guys do it if you guys are interested in it. And I thank you guys for joining us. Kayla, do you have anything to add on?
Yeah, thank you so much, Karina. I'm gonna like spin this question a little bit. Like, maybe what's the most challenging thing of being an officer? Like coming in. I feel like now it might be different, but especially for someone coming in, I felt I feel like a lot of students don't this, but like kind of imposter syndrome. Feeling that you're not qualified coming into this position, feeling that you have a lot of pressure to perform and do exactly the right things and do all this and all that. That's what I really struggled with. Coming into this office position, thinking that maybe my best wasn't enough, but coming in and meeting with the alumni board, meeting with the adult advisors, meeting with the regional officers, you really understand that they're here for you, right? And everyone wants you to succeed. Everyone wants you to grow as a person. And it's just, going into that, like being pushed out of my comfort zone, having that support has helped me so much, like facing those challenges. I just want to reiterate, like any challenges that you'll face as a regional officer, is one way you'll have support in. You're never like facing a challenge alone in this position. You have so many people, supporting you along the way. And that, it's going to tie into my final message. If any of you have any questions, any, concerns, any comments, feel free to reach out. We're here for you. All three of us, the alumni board, everyone here at the regional board, we want to help. We want to see you succeed. So I look forward to, keeping in contact with you all. And thank you so much for your time here today.
All right, those are some wonderful responses. I think the most challenging part is definitely that there are tasks and duties that we have to fulfill, and remembering that this was a responsibility that we signed up for, and that keeping that in mind and keeping consistency and making sure that those things get done, staying in communication with the group. It can be a challenge, but then I feel like if we put a bit of effort into it, it's definitely possible, especially with how supportive our board has been and how we've maintained communication with the regional officers you're collaborating with. Those are all things that help us make the things that we set aside for ourselves within this role to get done. And I think that it's challenging, but it is possible. I would just say that. And again, like my regional officers has mentioned, we are available if you want to book an appointment with us to talk to us. And if you have any email questions, we can answer through email as well. I would maybe have our regional officers put their emails in the chat. I think that thank you. And so it is It was wonderful getting to know everyone today. Please follow us on our social media platforms. And a final message I would leave to you all is that if you set a goal for yourself, you can do it. It's possible. And maybe if you really want to get something done, just get started on it. Believe in yourself, put yourself out there and try. And I'll tell you that the people around you will almost never, unless that person's having a really bad day, the people around you are always welcome to give you support and encouragement. If you reach out for questions and stuff, they're more than welcome to like answer you. So just believe in yourself and set goals for yourself and make sure to try, follow through with them. And so my email is under VP of Technology, and put that in the chat. And it was so nice getting to know everyone. Thank you so much for coming to this event and for setting time out of your day to meet us. And I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. All right. I cannot copy and paste my email. All right, there we go. There's my email. So please reach out. Great, and that concludes our meeting. Stop recording.